Hello, everyone. This is Darcinovia here, and this is my review on Wrong Side of the War, which is the last story arc of Star Wars Empire. And this is my review of the follow up story to Shadows of the Fathers. Now, if you're not familiar with the story before this one, To the Last Man, this focuses on a Tank Sunbrar, who is one of Luke's friends that was mentioned in A New Hope. And in this comic, we get to see the interworkings more with the Empire and what the perspective of the average Imperial soldier slash officer thinks. And I think this one thing this comic run just doesn't get enough credit for, which is unfortunate, because I don't even hear some of this stuff. In my opinion, this run had a pretty damn good stories for the most part. There were some pretty you know good stories that gave us more insight on the rebellion and the empire, and that we actually get to actually read what the empire, those who are serving it, who actually feel like they're doing the right thing. Why are they fighting for the empire? And what I really do love about this comic, the artwork is good, and considering the fact the kind of story it tells, I think the art actually fits the tone of the story. Honestly, I know for some people the art, if you've read the Battle of Jabim, arc, that this is gonna throw you off, but I actually think it works for this kind of story. Even though Luke Skywalker is not the main character of the story, I do love the fact that it actually tells it from the perspective of an Imperial officer that's looking to do the right thing, or thinks he's doing the right thing. And honestly, this comic, as if Luke's, couldn't could, things could get messed up for Luke. One of his friends he's known since childhood ends up becoming his enemy, and at the end of this comic, Tank learns that Biggs, someone who he saw as a friend, dies at the end of it. He died fighting against the Empire, and at this character is conflicted, and at at some point in this comic, he does stop a woman from getting raped, which it's obvious that's what he was doing, and there's a good amount of people in the Imperial military that doesn't like him. I think this is a really good story, to be honest. Though, in order to actually fully enjoy it, you're gonna have to read the arcs that came before it. So, honestly, this is probably at this point you're gonna have to read a good chunk of Empire. You have to read down to the Last Man because that's where the characters introduced. You have to read Shadows of Their Fathers because that's well, it explains why Luke and his crew are, where they are in the first place. So, unfortunately, if you just wanted to read one particular comic in this run, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to read at least 3 story arcs prior to this one. It's a really good comic, and honestly, I think this run of Star Wars comics I don't think gets enough credit. And I figured since I'm not going to talk about this comic series anymore, I'm going to be reviewing the sequel series after this. I might as well give my final thoughts. I think this was a good story, and I give it a good rating. Now, the overall, you know, what would I think of this run? I think it was really good, and honestly, it was a lot better than I was expecting. Because I I don't make it a secret that I'm not a fan of the Rebellion era in the Star Wars expanded universe. I find other eras more interesting, but these comics I've been reading has made me reconsider that notion, honestly. And the thing that's unfortunate, I don't think this era was explored, enough, at least in an interesting way. Because I wish there was more Star Wars comics that actually focused on other people in the rebellion and the Empire, so we actually get more insight for what they're fighting for. And it actually has made me believe it or not, maybe want to check out some stuff that's currently in canon. Because I feel like this was a wasted opportunity, honestly, on the expanded universe's part. And in my opinion, that's why the prequel era is more appealing to me. Because in these comics and these novels and in the multimedia project of the Clone Wars, even stuff that was released after, like the Republic Commando novels, in those stories, we actually learn why characters are fighting for whatever side they're fighting for. The Rebellion era, I felt like I wanted to see more. I wanted more of this. Why did someone rise up against the Empire? And why did they fight for the Empire? It makes me want to read more, and I don't think there are that many stories of that type that interest me. This is what I want to read about in the Rebellion era. I don't want to read about Luke all the time or want to read about Han or Leia. I want to read about other people other than them who fought in the rebellion, who contributed to the ultimate demise of the rebellion and the rise of the New Republic. That's what I want to read about. I don't want to read because we know where Luke, Han, and Leia's stories are going to end up in the movies. We don't need to read a bunch of stories featuring them, which is why I think where this comic run shines is when it focuses on characters that aren't part of the main cast. And that is why I think Empire is an underrated series. When I hear about expanded universe comics, I don't hear about this. I don't hear people talk about Empire. And that's a shame, because Empire does have some good stories. It does have some great writing. And I think that anyone that's a fan of the original trilogy era of Star Wars, I think I would recommend these comics for them to check out. And it's quite a shame. I've heard Star Wars Rebellion wasn't as good as this, but I'll wait and see, considering I'll give you my thoughts on those comics at a later date. Anyway, this is Darcenovia. May the Force be with you, and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.